tell me a little bit about how you came up with the name
Uh,
Media.
Banh Media came up like very naturally because like since I'm young, like my mother used to do this sandwich, and I've been in this Chinatown in Paris, and whenever we go to Chinatown in Paris, I would enjoy to buy a banh mi, like ask my parents to buy me a banh mi. I don't know, it's a thing. And I think like when we were like going to on holidays or whatever, like going by car, like every time we had like banh mi, ready to make banh mi in the car, and it's a sandwich that I share, and I like to have my friend discover this sandwich. I don't know if you know, in France, we have many
Nice.
sandwich, and one of them, like the most popular one, is jambon beurre, which is like literally like ham and butter and bread. And banh mi is more sexier, I will say. It's more sexy to have
Mhm.
it, and there's so many ingredients in it. So this is because of my intimate relation with banh mi, meaning like it's my childhood like memory, and still having it as an adult. And also it's a mix of culture, so you have the French baguette and you have Asian ingredients in. And whenever I was traveling in Asia, could be in Cambodia, in Laos, in Vietnam, or whatever, I could find banh mi everywhere. So yeah, it's for me, it's a deep meaning because it's mix of culture, and this is what I am. I'm a French baguette with Asian ingredients in. And yeah, and when I was living in Hong Kong, I have a friend of mine called me banh mi, and he said, yeah, Linda, you're French and Vietnamese, so you're definitely a banh mi. So that's how.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the explanation. And so you were born and raised
I
in
was
what
born
part of
in and
France?
raised in the suburb of Paris, in a city called Aulnay-sous-Bois. And it's not far away from the airport, Charles de Gaulle Airport. And I've been raised in a very multicultural environment. You know, like we have Black, Arabic, European, Asian, French people all together. So I didn't feel that I was, like apart or aside from the communities. And yeah, it was a mix of culture, so I didn't find myself like, like special, because everyone has a special culture, like when I grew up. So yeah.
What about growing up learning or speaking Vietnamese? Did you speak Vietnamese in your
Yes,
household?
so in my house, there were always Vietnamese language, and also like Khmer, because my parents, yeah, because my parents, they are Vietnamese, but they were born and raised in Cambodia. So the migration, like from Asia to France, was because of the Cambodian War, like the genocide with Pol Pot. So they came, they first stop in Vietnam, and then from Vietnam go to France. So we have mix of languages at home, but I could understand only Vietnamese. And then, like I used to have some cousins or aunties at home, so we will always speak in Vietnamese. But I will say that I can understand more than I can speak.
So that's what I was actually going to ask you, because when I first read your last name, I thought I wanted to ask about that because it's not Nguyen,
Nguon.
it's Nguyen, right? Nguyen,
Yes.
Nguyen, and that is from the origin is
Yes.
probably
So
from Cambodia,
so
right? Or
like some people saying that Nguon, in when you see a Nguon last name, means that they are Vietnamese from Cambodia, because at that time they were like Nguyen, but
I
to sound it like a Cambodian or like a Khmer language, they switches at Nguon, but I don't know if it's true or not. Yeah.
You traveled and you lived actually outside of France for quite some time, in various different countries. I believe you traveled to South Korea, Singapore, Hong Kong, Thailand. Were those places where you actually
Yes, so
lived for a bit?
I had the chance and the opportunity to live in a different part of Asia, in South Korea, because I did my exchange student university, you know, like for 6 months. So this is how I discovered South Korea. And then after graduated, I didn't want to find to look for a job in France, so I wanted to jump into in Asia, and to start my career over there. So I lived in Singapore for 2 years and a half. I lived in Hong Kong also, like for more than a year. And my last experience in Asia was in Thailand for 3 years living there. And on my previous job, I was handling, you know, like marketing for Asia for a French company. So it allows me to travel a bit of everywhere, like different part of Asia, uh, China, Japan, Laos, Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and so on. So yeah, I had the chance to have this opportunity, like through my career and through my job, to travel a bit.
Did you get a
Yes,
chance to travel
I
to
got the chance
Cambodia?
to travel in Cambodia. My first time was in 2014. And actually, at that time, I had a lot of friends like going to Cambodia and telling me like how wonderful and how beautiful it was. And and I always talked to my mom about like going to Cambodia one day, and she was always scared and afraid for me to go there, because the last images that she had, it's when she escaped Cambodia. So she always had this picture in her mind saying that Cambodia is dangerous. So I had a lot of you know, apprehension. I don't know if the word in English, but you know, like like my Cambodian trip was not as other trips. Like I had a lot of expectations, and I didn't know, you know, like how I will be welcomed and so on. And actually, it was one of the most wonderful trips that I had. And yeah, so at that time, like after that, I came back to Cambodia several times, and I went to Cambodia with my friends also. So yeah, I have a strong connection with Cambodia.
For those who don't know, there's definitely some. Would you say that there's some the Cambodians and Vietnamese? There's a lot of history between
Yeah.
the two countries, right? Are you aware of, or can you share some of the various different histories between the two countries,
So I will, sorry,
between the people,
between the
between
people,
the
yes.
people?
So, you know, like when I first go to Cambodia, my mother would tell me like, don't say that you're Vietnamese. This is the first thing that she told me. And I, why? And she was like, yeah, you know, Cambodian people, they don't really like Vietnamese. Um, and I didn't understand why at that time. And then when I met with young people, you know, like in Cambodia, I met friends with some Cambodian people over there. And yeah, there's like, I would say like some political, you know, like stories, or to say that, um, you know, uh, like after the Cambodian War, like Vietnamese people came over like to free the people.
Hmm.
But there's, you know, like in every war, it's like this, you know, like um, you have like some under stories. So I don't know, like, but for my part, like on my perspective, um, I feel like I'm not particularly like a Vietnamese or Cambodian. I'm a bit of everywhere, you know, like I have a bit of French, I have a bit of Cambodian, I have a bit of Vietnamese. So
Mhm.
I don't put myself in, you know, like in something that I don't want. I just want to discover other cultures, and
Absolutely.
I prefer not to be too political, because this is not my goal with Banh Mi Media. You know, like um, as I told you as an introduction, like Banh Mi is a mix of culture. So this is what I am, and this is why I try to communicate, and um, and and this is what I repeat to people also. Like, it's not a media for Asian people; it's a media for everyone. You know, like, and I have a lot of DMs. You know, like from non-Asian people who will like tell me thank you for what you're doing, even I'm not Asian, because either, you know, like they have kids, mixed kids, and for example, the mother like wants to know more about the father's roots, you know, like so it's also her kids, or other people, you know, like who has like mixed culture but not non-Asian, and they will like, oh, thank you for what you're doing, Linda, because like the topics that you're bringing on with your media is something that I can relate, you know. So yeah, so everyone is welcome. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what actually I love about what you shared about, because I'm a little bit more focused on telling the Vietnamese diaspora story, but I find that in America that the Asian media, there's a lot more, how would you say, focus. There's Filipino Filipino content, Chinese content, Korean content, and same thing with Vietnamese. But with over in the French media, you said uh, the, there's not a lot of
Yeah,
Asian focused
I think it's
content,
like
correct?
it's the context of the country, because like in France, like we always has been told by education and governments that we are all French. So starting from that point, we like everyone is all together. Um, but at the same time, you know, like, so we don't do like differences between like Vietnamese or Cambodian, or like, for me, I'm talking for me, but like everyone is like French, and then we can share a bit of our cultures together. But on the other side, we can our culture can be diluted, you know, like, because the French government will say like, don't speak your language at home, speak French, you know, and you know, like
I see.
they don't really uh, push us to bringing on our culture, to uh, you know, like to put the spotlight on what we are doing, our traditions, our culture, our language, and so on. So we miss that compared to United States, for example. And but in America, I feel that, as you said, is more focus. So Filipinos are with Filipinos, and they're bringing on their culture all together. So it's very strong, but it's, you know, like um, uh, you know, like it's different communities, this very distinctively. But in France, like we are in a pivot point that we really want to to connect back with our culture, because we're missing that. We are missing what you guys having in your own, you know, like different communities, like Asian communities.
Mhm.
Um, I met with Suboy, you know, like the hip hop artist in Vietnam, and this is what we discussed about. She was saying like, why in France, you know, like the French Vietnamese don't really speak Vietnamese, but in America, you know, like Vietnamese American, they are bilingual, you know, like they can switch English and Vietnamese like quite easily. And so this is that, you know, like the culture is more preserved, I would say, in America, but maybe has been deleted because of the context, the political and the history context of France. But I don't know. I'm not an historian, but this is what I can observe, and this is how I am feeling about it.
Because most of the Vietnamese diaspora came from our immigrants, our families of immigrants. So a lot of the makeup of American Vietnamese are from the South. So preserving and the history of what they recall is from the Southern uh, point of view. So like for example, one of the things that oftentimes a lot of immigrant Vietnamese over here don't talk about is the the homeland of Vietnam. They don't like to either they don't want to how would you say there's a uh, the, it's kind of some families it's so traumatic. It's so the thought of Vietnam is far removed from what they uh, are wanting to share with their family and their kids to talk about the history of it. So like, they don't encourage a lot of their family members or their kids to go back to Vietnam. So they're kind of holding back to some of the older some of the history up till 1975 of which was the last
Mm,
memory of Vietnam. So but what's happening now also in, let's say, in my community in Orange County, which has the largest population of Vietnamese, there's a growing amount of international Vietnamese from Vietnam that now lives here, and they're mingling, they're socializing with Vietnamese Americans, but there's a little bit sometimes there it's a it's almost
yeah,
at
definitely.
times two different cultures because the Vietnamese
Yeah,
American culture is very different from the Vietnamese the current Vietnamese
yeah, definitely. They
community.
grew up differently, and yeah, it's and I can see it also like France, you know, like you have the Vietnamese immigrants, and you also have, you know, this Vietnamese like students coming to France, and what they have about
Mhm.
the Vietnam, you know, like it's more modern and contemporary than the Vietnam that the people uh, who left in the 70s at that time. So there's timing, you know, like uh, distance, you know, like between those two group of people, you know, like the pictures of Vietnam is not the same.
So actually, I wanted to ask you, since like you did visit Vietnam, what was your experience stepping foot when you stepping foot into the
For the
country for the
first
first
time,
time?
I could say because I was very young. You know, I had the
Mhm.
chance to have my parents who can you know, like afford to go to Vietnam like once every 2 or 3 years. So I think my first time in Vietnam, I was probably like 5 years old. Um, but what I can say about Vietnam, from my point of view, is that it's always changing, and particularly like when I was living in Asia, I could go to Vietnam like once or twice a year because it's so nearby. You know, like when you travel with a low cost airline, it's very affordable. And from, you know, like going to Vietnam and then going back in time, it's always changing. And so, for example, you know, like, I, I've been to Vietnam like for my work. So I had to you know, like visit some businesses, you know, like coffee shop or like cocktail bars, because I was working in alcohol industry, and what I can say is that the Vietnamese people like bringing on, it's you know, like really inspired by what they can see, you know, like for example, in the US or in Paris or, you know, like in Australia. But the service, the creativity, they always want to bring it more, you know, like, and be the best. So they always in a movement of bringing their best, being the number one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I remember that when I was traveling for this, when I was working for this company, I would organize and direct, you know, like some cocktail competition in different countries in Asia, in Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong, Vietnam. And what I can say from Vietnam is that, you know, like the day before the competition, I could see many competitors going to the bars to look how the bar is working, like how is it designed to, for the day of the competition, to be ready for it. And I did that in other
Mm-hmm.
countries. And the day of the competition, I would, you know, like congratulate, you know, like the winners, the second runner-up, the third runner-up, and I will go to the second runner-up and say, "Congrats, you are like the second runner-up. You can go to the regionals with us." And she told me,
Mm-hmm.
"No, I'm not happy. I want to be the number one." You know, so, and this is
Wow.
something that I didn't see in other countries. You know, like for example, for Thailand, okay, no matter who is winning, like everybody will cheer and will cheers, and then like everybody will be happy, and then like, you know, there's something like this. And in the Philippines it's different, in Taiwan it's different, and so on. But in Vietnam, what I can see, like for me living in Thailand and going to Vietnam, I can see that, you know, like the traffic jam in Thailand, you're stuck and you stay still, you know, you stuck in the traffic jam. But in
Yeah.
Vietnam, you always find a way to move and to go ahead. And this really, you know, like
No.
amazed me. And it tells a lot about the Vietnamese mindset. You always have to go ahead, to go forward, and, you know, like, and you can, and you can relate with the history, you know, like the Vietnam War, with the French, with America, they always win. They will always be the winner, like in front of, you know, like the biggest countries in the world. But they're so resilient,
Mm-hmm.
and they have kind of a fighter mind that, that, you know, like it's really fascinated me. And at the same time it can be scary, you know, but this is how I can see Vietnam. And you can see like economically, like growing up like so fast. Southeast Asian countries, you can see like Vietnam is skyrocketing. And culturally speaking also, like in the music, in the film industry, in the arts, in the culture, you know, like um, globally speaking, they are very on point, you know, like they want to do stuff. And I not saying that other countries don't want, but they are really, like they fight for it.
So on that topic, actually, I want to take this time to learn a little bit more about the your previous work, the content that you produce under Banh Media, because I brought you on so we could talk about your upcoming season. So I believe you started the company back in 2020, and
Yes, yes. I
is
come
that
back
correct?
in France in 2020. Yeah.
And then what ultimately, what was the deciding factor for you to say, hey, I want to, I want to create this company and
So
create this content?
basically, like how I just 1 second.
No problem.
Um, so yeah, I came back to France because I wanted to go back to Europe. Like I was living in Asia for 8 years, in Hong Kong, Singapore, and Thailand, and I wanted to go back to Europe, and then the COVID happened, and I stayed in France with my mom, and during the lockdown, I started to write, and I could see also like in social medias that you have more and more, like Instagram accounts, like bringing up, like Asian cultures and so on, like media coming up, and I feel like, oh, okay, so this is what um, this is existing now, like at my time, like when I was in France, I couldn't see these kind of things happening. So it's really, like kind of empowered, like to bring up, like my culture as well. And so I start to write about my dual culture, like being French, Vietnamese, Cambodian, uh, and write about some stories and encounters that I met when I was in Asia. So this is how I created the blog Banh Culture. And after that, like I was I love to listen to podcasts, and I feel like there's something, like very strong, like listening to podcasts, that you can go really deep into the conversation that you're listening to. And I really like this medium, and I wanted to do my podcast as well. So I first asked, like or like propose to a production agency, like to have a podcast, and I create the content and so on. And then we split after 4 episodes. And after that, I was saying to myself, like, okay, what I'm missing now to do my own podcast? Okay, just the recorder and the mic and so on. So I just go for it. And this is how I started the podcast. Like my goal was like, I want to share the very deep and meaningful conversation that I can have with people around me, that can, nourish me and nourish my friends and other people
Mhm.
who can find, who can relate with what we are saying, and who can grow up with what we are saying. So it's just started like this, that I wanted to share conversation that I have with people, and I put it on Spotify. I and then in this in this work, in this mission, like I have like other people who wanted to join me, like illustrators, photographers. And then like one day I have one of my mentor telling me, Linda, your podcast is good, but you have to jump to another step. Do it in video. And I, yeah, but how can I do in video? I cannot, I don't know how to film myself. If I ask for someone to film, it will be a cost and so on, and I don't have this money to afford the film, to afford the, like videos. And he told me, okay, I got you. I will help you. And first video, I will I will sponsor it. And I say, okay. So I just go for videos just like this, I, I made some encounters, like step by step, that have some people around me who want to join this, like this, this mission of having these talks, and walking together to bring it up, So this is how I had videos, and then I started to clip with my team the videos subtitled in English. And for me, it was necessary, you know, like to bring it on in English, because what we are sharing on my media is not only for French speaking people. It's for, I think it's for everyone, you know, like as I told you,
Absolutely.
as in the introduction, is not only, you know, Asian people uh, who are you know, like listening to who are watching and listening to my content, and as to be inclusive to everybody, I want it to be seen to people who cannot understand French as well. And for me, living 8 years in Asia, and my main language was English, I have friends in Asia who cannot speak in French. My first my first thought, you know, like when I wanted to have it in English, it's for them to understand what I'm doing, what we are saying. And now that, you know, like I'm happy that VietQ and you, Johnny, like can see, can watch the videos, you know, like you cannot listen to the podcast because it's all in French, but at least you have some, you know, like bribes of clips of here of what we are saying and the topics that we are discussing. And I'm very happy about it, and I'm very proud to have a team to understand this and to do it with me.
I absolutely love it that you did translate it, just because when I started this journey for VQ Media, my goal was to understand all the different VQ communities outside of just America, right? And the in the French community is very important because there's been a deep, long history with Vietnamese with the country of France and the ones that are living there. But because of the language, I'm not able to really connect. So through your platform, the one first video that I actually got a chance to see was the one with Mr. Nia, who's the theater actor. And just a quick connection with Mr. Nia was I
Oh,
had a chance to work with him on a American film
yeah.
called The
I'm so
Accidental Driver.
hear that.
And
I'm 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 so
I'm
happy
sorry?
to hear that you had to meet with Tuhip, because yeah, because he's always we have a strong bonds now together. He's my tool, you know, and like every time that there's a press you know, like an article about the accidental getaway driver, he always sent to me, and he always, you know, like trying to go to my events. Like tonight, he will be there, you know, like for the country. and
Awesome.
um, and I'm so proud of him that for all these years he has been, you know, like the second role, or, you know, like someone like Asian actor, or like the Chinese actor, you know, like not considered
Mhm.
at him as Vietnamese, but for the first time, you know, like he's on the spotlight, you know, like in the film. He,
He was the
he's
main.
the main actor.
He was
Yeah,
he was the main act. The whole film
everything is
based around
around
him.
him.
Hmm.
And he and he's very talented. He's very like he can, you know, like transmit and a lot of emotions in his acting and I'm so happy that you guys met in the US. Yeah.
Oh, we got to spend a lot of time together, not only on set, but after the film was over. He was also quite fun to hang out with and sing karaoke. So
Yeah.
during our rap party, um, he was happy to sing some
Well.
of the classic Vietnamese songs for all the cast and crew. So, and very charismatic. We also
Mm,
got time to spend time with his wife as well on set. She was lovely, and you know, they said whenever we come to
mm.
France, make sure
They,
to get in
they
contact.
are very precious couple. And I'm very you know, like I have a lot admiration. I really admire them, you know, like, as a couple who wants to be together in you know, like on stage together with the play Saigon. And every time that Chuhe is going somewhere, he trying to bring Ko-an with him, and they're
Mhm.
lovely, and they have hearts in their hands. And the episode that I've done with them in their apartment was really meaningful and precious for me. So and I hope that this film will go internationally to see that Vietnamese stories can be told and can be shared with a lot of people. And I can wait to watch this movie.
Yeah, so to speak about your evolution of your media company, so podcast to video store like video segments, and then getting into even you do also on your channel you do a lot of great event coverage as well. I got to see some of the events you've covered in France of various different Asian different I think it was food and culture and stuff like that. So of those mediums, what now that you've ventured into video as well, which media do you like to produce? Is it still podcast, um, or is it video content?
Um, for me, it's all complementary. So my first media, I will say it's podcast, because I and like logistically, you know, like it's easier. You know, like I just go with my mic and my recorder, and then like I can record like everything by myself. For the filming, it requires like more people, and have to fit with the agendas and
Absolutely.
so on. But it can bring also like, or some people prefer the videos because they want to see, you know, like the, the 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 faces, the you know, like they are more visual. And I do also events because it's the extension of the podcast and the video. It's, you know, like for me, I really like to meet the people who are listening and who are watching the media. I want to go furthermore, you know, like to maybe one day um, uh, we can do some workshop. Maybe one day we can have like some, group discussion, or group meeting, or you know, like to extend that to something to, you know, like to strengthen the bonds that we have apart from the podcast and apart from the videos, because everything that I'm doing is to understand more the humanity. It's maybe pretentious to say that, but this is what um, this is this is what, you know, like pushes me to continue what I'm doing, you know, like to get to encounters people, to get to know more about humans, to get to know more about history, to get to know more about different cultures. And this is what
I
I saw when I was
agree.
when I was in Asia, you know, like going through many countries, to India, Bhutan, to Nepal, to Indonesia, to Malaysia, to Laos, to different countries. And because I've been to these different countries, I've met different people. Those people that I met made me what I am today. And without these encounters, without this meeting with humans, I couldn't I couldn't do what I'm doing now, you know? So I feel that it's important, you know, like, and this is what I want to share. Aside from Asian cultures and Asia, you know, like the strong essence of what I'm doing is to get people together and have a better understanding
Mm-hmm.
of us. Like for example, why I'm saying that is, for example, when I travel to India, I have a lot of my friends, Linda, what are you doing in India? Like it's so dangerous, like this, that. And for me, I didn't feel it was dangerous at all. Like for my 1 month being there, like it was so enlightening for me. And I want
Mm-hmm.
to break, like these boundaries and break this cliche, about a culture, a country, about whatever, by sharing, like different stories, different perspective of of of, of people, like simply simple as that. Yeah.
Okay. So speaking of, so tonight you have a gathering of yourself for your for the launch of season 3, right? So, uh, what are you going to be focusing on this upcoming season for your podcast and also just for Banh Media?
So it will be a spoiler then for tonight. um I, I would say like so we are bringing, like as the season 2, like more videos, new interviewees, new guests, um uh, uh but yeah, like I would say like the big on season 3 is to offer something that people can relate, not only with the content, but um, what we can offer, like physically, like to get to people to meet together and get uh, to go continues, like uh, the experience, the Banh Mi experience, other than the content that you can have on.
Uh, so you want to evolve it into the season to being out there and creating experiences or connection points, right,
Yeah.
with your viewers and your audience. Um, what's the one biggest thing you've learned in this whole journey of the past couple of years of starting your media company?
Um, what I learned is everything is is ruling when you are sincere, and when you uh, uh, when you put all the values on people. Uh, for me, like I bring it up, like some guests on what they are saying on their stories. Like for them, it can be is nothing particular, but for other it can be. So each story of each individual is so precious, and without people and without all these individuals, I could not have like a team who, like trust on what we are doing together, on what we are doing together. And without people who join me, I could not, like having a discussion with you, because there will not be video, there will not be subtitle, there will not be content as I'm doing now. So the most the lesson, and what I have a lot of gratitude for, is people, like simply like this. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say for I share I've been on. I started VQ Media around the same time you did in 2020, and it's about 3 years now. And one of the biggest lessons I learned, or one of the biggest joy that I was able to gain, was I was able to connect with so many different people that I never would have been able to if it wasn't for this platform. And it was purely from a place of curiosity. I started VQ Media to connect with other Vietnamese outside of my community. And it's been very eye-opening. It helped me connect a lot more with my identity and also explore that not you can't put all Vietnamese in one box, in my opinion. It's all everyone has a very interesting stories, but the one thing that is abundantly clear is Vietnamese people as a whole group is very resilient, and no matter where you put a Vietnamese person, they will find and they'll find their way. I wouldn't say out, but they will make their situation work. There's another young man by the name of Kyle Lay. He created a YouTube channel dedicated to showcasing Vietnamese in very different types of communities. There was a man that lived in Senegal in Africa, and he followed his journey of being one of the only Vietnamese man
One.
in Senegal, and how he survived and came there, didn't even know the language, but was able to make it work. And you know, so it's quite I really, the more and more I meet people in Vietnamese that are doing digital media or just new media, I always want to meet, because it's I think it's important to tell stories, and I love to be able to be a part of continuing to be on this community of people that showcases and showcases
And
stories.
thank you for what you're doing, Johnny, like with VietQ Media. It's we can really discover like talented people, artists, you know, like entrepreneurs, brands, and so on. So, and it's you know, like we're missing that, you know, like in France, that you know, like platforms, you know, like bringing up the lights on communities like you can do in the US, and especially with your media. So it's a source of inspiration as well for us. So thank you for that.
Yeah, my focus is a lot more. I'm heavy more on musicians, artists, artists about like entertainment and sports, because that is my surrounding. But I plan on this upcoming year to expand it a little bit further, go a little bit deeper into the culture, and ask a lot more thought-provoking type of questions and various different topics. So. But on that note, I just want to say congratulations for your growth. You know, being able to produce on various different platforms, it requires a different type of deliverable. You know, on YouTube is different, YouTube Short, Instagram, Spotify, all these mediums of telling stories. It just it's not a one size fit all. So it is a lot of work, and I'm glad you do have a lot of support, or people that are there to encourage you and support you, because it's a long
Yeah,
journey, you
so,
know, to
yeah,
be
it's a long
honest.
journey, but like each step is very beautiful, and each step it's you know, like very something that we are all proud of, you know, like to bringing on, you know. And season 3, sorry, I didn't know like when I would release, and I postponed like twice the launch of season 3 because I became a mom. And still, you know, like I have some people who are like the team who is uh, along with me, you know, like we push it like towards it like further. And yeah, it's very beautiful to see that. And I really enjoy this journey because of them, and because of all the upbringings with new encounters, new meetings, and with you also, Johnny.
New mom. So so in 2022 you became a
In
mom, or in 2021 you
2022.
became a mom? Wow,
Yeah.
brand new mom. How old's your baby now?
How old? Yeah, she's 6 months.
Hmm. Wow, congratulations on that. So doing this and being a mom right now. That's awesome. All right, so I mean that's pretty much what I wanted to chat with you today. So good luck tonight. It's going to be a night of celebration for yourself, and just congratulations on everything so far. So
Thank
thank
you
you so
very
much for having this
much,
conversation
Johnny,
with me.
and hope to see you soon, maybe in US, France, or in Vietnam.
Oh, absolutely. You know what? I was actually going to say, in all the places you traveled, I didn't hear the United States. Have you been here to the United States?
I've been in New York and in Boston, but not on the other side.
It's going to be a treat if you ever come out to California and come to Little Saigon, because I think outside of Vietnam, you would never be in a city where there's so many Vietnamese
I
all in
can
one
wait to see
place.
that. Yeah.